Hello everyone, I wanted to give you a graphite tutorial and show you the materials I used to create this squirrel. I'm beginning with graphite powder to create the main structure of the squirrel, and I already have my light sketch lines in, which I established with a 6H pencil. But I like to add graphite powder to create the outlines, the mid-tone areas, and also just to lay in some of the animal's features and musculature. Graphite powder, and I make my own, is wonderful for creating soft edges, so it was perfect for creating the bushy tail, but it also allows me to create a great base and first layer that I can build on over the top with pencil. Notice that all the directions I'm going are in the direction of the fur, and this is really important. I'm laying the powder in with an eyeshadow applicator which lays down smooth and gives a nice softness to the tail. Using a sharpened 6B pencil, I start adding in the details of the eyes, and I wanted to achieve really dark eyes, so I added quite a bit of pressure to make them stand out from the softness surrounding them. I like to use Faber Castell 9000 series pencils, but any sharpened pencil you have in the B range will work just as well to achieve this look. I just make sure that the pencil is really sharp, and I blend some of the eye in with the point of a blending stump. And sometimes with the B pencils, because they're so dark, you can start getting a shiny look, and I don't care for this most of the time, but I didn't mind this for the features as it created a strong focal point. So I used a mixture of the B pencil and also the blending stump, but also the Tombow Mono Eraser to gain some finer highlights back. And I love this eraser, and I recommend it for your graphite work. It's the best eraser for getting into tiny areas, and it can be used in a number of different ways. I used it to create a slight halo around the squirrel to allow his face to stand out from the tail, and I added some tiny little hairs in there too that are hard to achieve without this kind of eraser. It allows me to bring the hairs back into the face. I can carve shapes into the graphite powder that I laid down, and this is called working negatively. I created shapes around the eyes, adding some musculature here and there, and also brightening up some of the eye. I'm using a light touch to create feathered shapes into the hairs now, to the eye on the left, and I like to use a clean makeup brush to sweep away the particles that are left over from erasing, and I protect my hands with a sheet of glassine, but you can use parchment paper or just a sheet of computer paper to stop smearing your artwork. I continue to bring out the individual hairs with the eraser on the features of the squirrel's face. I can start adding in some more pencil work into the face right over the top of the graphite powder layer and create more depth to the ears. And by using the pencil really sharp, I can add tiny little individual hairs. I'm applying a very light and mostly fast movement here, adding more pressure. Notice I'm holding my pencil close to the tip of the pencil as I want as much control as possible. It's important at this point to really pay close attention to the reference. I don't add in every single hair on the reference, but I do add lots of individual lines using the pencil to create the shadow and shape, going back and forth with the pencil marks and eraser. I can now start to add more pencil work to the mouth and nose area, building on the graphite powder that gave me the initial shape in the beginning. But now I can add markings in with the pencil to give the squirrel some character and individuality, always going in the direction of the fur. And I can now add a second layer of graphite powder to the tail behind, placing some in between the ears, and I like using an eyeshadow applicator as it's made of foam and lays down really smoothly. I didn't add any pencil to the tail, it's just all graphite powder. I dipped it into the container and I used hardly any, as a little bit of it spreads really well, and I used either the tip or the side of the applicator. And now I can use the eraser again to add in all of those tiny little hairs that stand out against the tail behind. I can cut the tip of the eraser with an X-Acto knife if I want a really sharp edge. Now I'm just tapering off my pressure and looking again at the direction of the hairs in my reference. And I start carving out some of the shapes into the hands to create a really soft look. I lift up my hand when I get to the end of where I want to erase so that I don't get a blunt edge, and I can go in either direction, but I'm always paying attention to where the direction of the fur is actually laying, and this is super important to create a realistic look. And I can create shapes around the hand to make it look like the fur is covering the arm underneath, and the softness gives an impression of a thick coat, and that's why at this point it's important to have added enough graphite powder to the areas in shadow, as I don't want to lift all of that off with the eraser. And so I can go back and forth with the pencil and the eraser, adding in and lifting off until I get the desired look of fur. And notice how the eraser was able to achieve white hairs in the chin area and also around the squirrel's face, both on the left and the right. And to achieve whiskers, I'm still using that sharp B pencil to get really fine lines. Some of the individual hairs start out not only from the center but at random areas like the eye and also from the side of the face. I create these using just one thin line, and I can use that mono eraser to add in some white whiskers, and these really stand out from that layer shadowed below. It's important to look at the reference and add in some random whiskers, and one stroke is all that's required to achieve these lines. I don't add too many as they're hard to erase once I've committed to the line, and I know I can always add more in after I've assessed my work. So here is my finished squirrel, and I hope you'll give these supplies a try in your graphite drawings to achieve these effects. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel.